Okay, folks, I'm reconnecting here to online broadcasting software to the stream. Let me see. Window capture, okay. We are going to get this game back up. I started a game with Mule Skinner, regular player here on my stream. It's an Alekhines defense video capture. Order up. All right, hopefully it will be okay. That was the first time I've had any problems with my stream this week. I have no idea. Maybe just lag on my connection. I don't know, but hopefully it won't continue. All right, so d4, d6 against Mule Skinner. I've talked about this a lot. It seems like he likes closed positions, so not too many people playing this opening. Our Hungarian Grandmaster Berkes Ferenc does play this old variation of the Alekhines sometimes. He's the only top player I'm aware of playing this opening on a semi-regular basis, but there must be another one or two. I think Bishop g4 is kind of considered like old school main line, but there are a lot of other possibilities. Maybe g6 is more dynamic, and there's some weird lines with d takes e5. You may know this d takes e5 like Tal variation, knight takes f6, knight d7. There's a famous game where Tal like didn't sacrifice on f7 against Larsen, I think. Of all people, you would think that Tal would pull the trigger on that kind of sacrifice, but he thought for a long time and then didn't do it. But d takes e5 never been really my thing. So this kind of transposes to a sort of exchange variation with e takes d. Not obligatory. I guess black can take back either way here. I've always been more apt to take with the c pawn, but I'm not sure. If I take back with the c pawn here, white could even play d5. The variation troubles me a little bit. What do I do after c takes d, d5? I think I had a game with Shabalov once where I managed to draw somehow with black, but it was a strange decision for me to play the Alekhines defense against Shabalov. I was very optimistic. It was like a rapid game or something semi-fast, like game 60, and I just thought, okay, whatever. I guess this is safer. Symmetrical pawn structure. Rapport reminds me of like a young Tal. Rapport wants to be a young Tal, but I think that you have to understand something, okay? I think Rapport just wants to be like a young Tal. His natural style, I'm not sure, is really like that. He's extremely strong positionally and strategically. My opinion is that he's forcing himself to try to play like this crazy sacrificial player, whereas his real strength is actually in his positional ability. He could be a very, very strong player if he would kind of tone it down a little bit and just not try to force things so much. I think he's young and he's impressionable and he wants to be this really romantic player, but he's taking it too far. He's actually really, really strong technically and strategically, and if he would just kind of chill out a little bit, he could probably like round out into like a really top player. But if you've seen some of the games he's played, like the game in the Bundesliga last year against Aronian, where he basically where he beat him twice in the same game. I did a video like that on chesslecture.com. I think he can play fantastic technical chess. So I think I'm not sure that's his natural style. What you see him trying to represent. Trying to play like Shirov, he got crushed by Shirov in the Olympiad. It's just like he wants to be cool or something, but I think he needs to chill out. Okay, whatever. So here we are, bishop e2, I guess bishop e7. It's a little bit like wanting to be something that you're really not necessarily. But Rapport is a strange player. He's not your typical chess player. Like most Hungarian players would have been brought up like, solely by Hungarian trainers and had a very kind of systematic schooling, according to the tradition here. And Rapport is he comes from a very wealthy family, and they paid for him to have lessons with like every major like available grandmaster from every different place they could find. And so he has a kind of like, he has so many different influences on his game. You can't like classify him as like a typical Hungarian grandmaster, because he's absolutely not. I mean, he's not really a product of the Hungarian chess school. He's kind of like an international product. But he's got a lot of different influences. He's had like a zillion different coaches, and I think maybe that can be kind of a bad thing. Like it's a little confusing. He doesn't know his own style, basically. So I think he's had so many outside influences on his game that he's still trying to find his identity as a chess player. Knight to c3, castles, and what about knight c6? When am I supposed to play this? I guess now is a good time. Well, we kind of like transposed to an exchange variation. So it's not the most exciting. It's similar to like a Petrov, I think, structurally, or an exchange French. It's much more romantic for black to take back on d6, on move 6, with the c pawn toward the center, and that's the traditional approach, more dynamic. But sitting there, it just occurred to me that white can play d5 in this position, and that reminded me of my game with Shabalov. We had the same position, just without bishop g4 and without knight f3. Shabalov played d5. I've also played that for white, with the bishop back on c8 and the knight on g1. But in this position, I think d5 is good too. Have to look it up. Knight c6, white to play. People don't want him to tone it down. We will enjoy his play. Should he get a higher rating? Well, we in the Hungarian, I think, chess community want him to tone it down when he's like losing games on the Olympic team against people that he shouldn't lose to. You have to like take tournaments like that more seriously. He really did a disservice, I think, to the Hungarian Olympic team, playing like an absolute maniac in games where he needs to think about the team. So I'm sure some people weren't real happy with him. I mean, it's a selfish thing to do. It's like a basketball player like hogging the ball the whole game and like not passing to the other players and just trying to like shoot 3-pointers like every time he gets the ball. It's not very mature. So yes, it's very entertaining for chess fans, but so here bishop takes f3, and white gets bishop pair, but the pawn structure is symmetrical, and black has, well, you're not going to keep the bishop pair, are you? c4 is hanging. Neil Skinner, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're sacrificing a pawn here. Does my knight get trapped on c4 or something? Played this like instantly. Bishop e4. Instantly played. And then now that I think about it, I have to be careful, because knight takes c4. He may win his pawn back. f5 is interesting. It's a very, very interesting move, bishop e4. If knight takes c4, f4, taking away my knight's retreat square. Then again, I could play f5. And it's awkward for black. The other knight takes c4. It may amount to the same thing. But how could you know this, like, immediately, bishop e4 is a move? Just stumbled upon it. Knight takes e4, c4, f4, knight f6. I don't know. F5 is kind of weakening, but it might win a pawn. Then again, f4, bishop d3 is problematic as well. How does Muleskinner play bishop e4 in that position instantaneously? I mean, the first reaction would be bishop e2, I would think. And that might have been good. Because bishop e2, knight b takes c4, f4, wins a piece for white. And knight d takes c4, f4 leaves me with like no way to free my knights. The only thing is I'm having sort of doubts about this. I think I made a mistake. I should have taken, maybe I could have taken this way and then played something weird like bishop f6. And he has a hard time actually winning my knight on c4. I probably took the wrong way. Queen c2. Well, queen c2 is not clear either. I think we're both playing kind of sloppily here. We're both playing inaccurately. He has some interesting play with queen c2 along the c-file, but I still think that we both made mistakes here. It looks like a lot of mistakes. Knight g4 wins a piece for white, so I have to go back to d7. But it actually doesn't win a piece. Anyway, it's safer to go back to d7. I'm down to 6 seconds while Muleskinner has all this time. But it's strange because Muleskinner doesn't usually play so quickly. I guess he's trying to play faster, consciously. I don't know. I advocate like taking your time. Muleskinner had a lot of interesting options and he didn't really think about them. He just quickly made decisions. But I got down to all my time gone, just a 3-second increment. But I still think black's position is okay. It's pretty compact. In fact, maybe black's just better here. I could even sacrifice an exchange. But I doubt it's necessary. If bishop h6, either a6 or I like the exchange sacrifice. Now he has no concrete threats. Very strong defender. Bishop f4. So it's the random moves. Like, I can't predict what he's going to do. Playing too quickly. It was a little safer for me to play probably bishop f6. But I had 7 seconds left, so... Trading the dark square bishops is okay, but maybe I'd be better off just playing bishop f6 and bishop g7. Sitting there with a very compact, safe position. I mean, I realize it's not a 60-minute game, but you guys need to get used to the fact that the increment, you should be able to play with just the increment. That's what I think. Should be enough. He finds sacrifice on g6, very nice. And then he hangs a piece. Where is he coming up with these ideas? Okay, I allowed bishop takes g6. That was bad. The game was just kind of marred by time pressure. But white had a lot of interesting possibilities there. If I ever play that position again, I'm going to be more thoughtful about how we try to take that pawn on c4. Interesting. After d5, bishop takes f3, bishop takes f3, knight e5. He played bishop e4. I'm curious if that position almost had to have been played before. Let's play e4. Bishop h6, I'll just sacrifice the exchange. Even rook e8 was playable. Ghostmine played the center counter here. I wasn't sure if I was going to sacrifice the exchange on f8 or not. It's not really forced, but kind of a lazy way to play the position, I think. But I'm curious about the opening when white plays bishop e4. I mean, that position has to have been reached before in master games. So if somebody wants to look that up, we can check it after this game in the lichess master opening explorer. Ghostmine playing theory here with c6. Normally knight f6 is played. I don't know what the deal is with bishop f5. I guess it's some kind of transposition. There's no way you can delay playing knight f6 for more than another move, and it wouldn't have any point. I can assure you. I mean, what are you going to do? Play your knight to e7, or Bishop c4 is probably more common. Man, I lost my connection to the other laptop. All right. Yeah, so I end up playing kind of strange line here with bishop d3 instead of bishop c4. But I suppose it's not bad. Black's, I think, pretty solid. Of course, the YouTube chess player John Bartholomew plays the Scandinavian a lot. He's kind of popularized this to the uninitiated, but this is not good for black. Letting me take on f5 here. Bishop takes f5 right away was possible too, but I didn't want to let black trade on, now he's got a concrete tactical problem. One thing you can keep in mind is that in any kind of Scandinavian or Caro-Kann type of structure, if white plays d5 somehow, usually that's a bad development for black. There was a game in the Weekend's AB tournament, which was a Caro-Kann, but of course the same white square pawn structure. Now I don't remember who was white, but Erwin Lamy was black, and he allowed white to play like d5. And the game was over in like 15 moves. So you've got to be very careful, any Scandinavian or Caro-Kann, allowing white to play d5 and break your pawn structure on e6 and c6. That's generally not a good thing. So here the question is there some way to knock Ghost Mine out here? Well, there is a kind of obvious try after all the spiel I just gave. If only I had bishop f4 somehow. I don't know if we have time for that. Queen e2. Ooh, queen e2 might be good. Queen e2. I thought d5 is quite interesting for white here. d5 threatening d6. Pawn takes pawn, or knight takes, pawn takes. Queen takes d5. No threat in that position, is there? Yes, there is. Ooh. This could be pretty nasty. I mean, d5 is one move that's very strong, and the other move is queen e2. Queen e2 looks like extremely strong for white as well, but maybe black could survive there somehow. And I think both are very good. d5 looks both are good. I think it's one or the other, doesn't matter. Black is probably lost here, one way or another. It's like an 80s song, Pat Benatar or something. Oh my god. Queen e2. Yeah, don't ever let your Caro-Kann structure get busted up. I guess I chose the wrong way. Or not. Man, he has this. Exploiting my back rank. Quite alert. What about tactics here? I'm afraid he's going to reach an equal ending. After queen takes e7. Could play g3. Black's hanging on there. Queen takes e7, rook e8, bishop f4, rook takes e7, bishop takes c7, rook takes e1 check, rook takes e1. Black is like hanging on. And now he has a 5-minute time advantage. If I had played d5, I guess Black wouldn't have had a really good answer here. Castle's queenside is not a solution to that problem. He would have to take. Knight takes, he'd have to take twice on d5. And objectively, Black is lost. So I guess I made the wrong choice. C'est la vie. Well, I don't think, you know, we have to be rude to each other, guys, but Octopus Rampage raises an interesting point. You know, like, nobody should spam the chat like with tons and tons and tons of variations. You get excited and it's easy to like constantly like spout everything you think of. But I don't think he wants to be rude, but everybody should just kind of like not analyze every variation in the chat, probably. G3, that's a good point, Octopus Rampage. G3. Threatening the devastating bishop f4, in case you didn't know. I chose this rather than like the alternative queen f3. Looks kind of slow, not developing a piece, not getting rid of the back rank problem. G3 eliminates me getting back rank mated, and it threatens bishop f4. So it's pretty unpleasant for Black. And Ghostmind just like catastrophically blundered immediately. I mean, he has to play bishop d6 in this position. It's the only move. And now I can just play bishop f4 and take on e7. Also creating like a weakness on the white squares in some lines, but not significant here. But Ghostmind finds a solution, but then misses the way. So the thing is, after bishop d6, I don't really see anything for white. Knight takes d6, queen takes d6, bishop f4, queen takes d4, and I need to find some tactics, but I didn't see anything. Okay, rook d1. White has compensation, but it's difficult to get the knight on c3 to somewhere like d6. Maybe I have some sort of tactic somewhere to sacrifice a piece. If I had knight b5 somehow, but I just didn't see a way to break black's position after bishop d6. Maybe the computer could find some kind of fantastic sacrificial way for white, but Ghostmind, after finding this ingenious defense, makes a mistake. Now he's just lost. Queen takes e7, rook on e8, knight d6. Knight d6 check, what? Queen takes e7. Rook e8, knight d6 check, he has queen takes d6. I'm getting mated on the back rank. Did I have defense? Did I miss something? I'm about to lose on time. I thought I was getting mated on the back rank in that other variation. I think I am. Very surprised if there's something I missed there. This is obviously catastrophic for black. I don't have time to go back and analyze it. With just 9 seconds, I'm going to lose on time if I change screens or try to go back moves. So we can take a look at it after the game just briefly. Guys, we're streaming till 12:30, so another hour here. Every Monday to Friday, Blitz and Classical Chess on lichess. On Sundays, I do a simul. This week will be 20 players because I have a team game in the morning, and I'm usually kind of a little bit tired from those. So we will limit it to 20 players rather than the usual 25. Possible I had a mate here, but I didn't see it. Got a few extra pieces on the board. Ghostmind is hoping to win on time, but I don't like his chances. With 3-second increments, I could scoop all the pawns, no problem. Eventually set up a checkmate. But I think the easiest policy would be to trade off his remaining piece. Let's trap it. Trapping it and winning it. Okay. So just out of curiosity, let's look at this position out of the opening. Yeah, I mean, this is a rare move. Bishop d3, pretty much. The computer recommends bishop takes f5 straight away. I played knight e5. We're following one random game. And then this is a blunder, knight d7. Black has to exchange on d3 or maybe play bishop g6. Okay, so he blunders. He lets me play this. And then bishop takes f5. Now his king is opened up. Rook e1 check. Bishop e7. Yes. So I thought that both queen e2 and d5 were strong, but d5 is clearly winning. And there is no really adequate defense there is no really adequate defense here. There's a funny line the computer gives, like knight takes d5, knight takes d5. So this is kind of cute, like knight e3. I was going to play simply queen takes d5, but there may be some tactical problems. No, not really. This is good enough. Alright, so in the actual game, I blundered with queen e2. Black finds castles queenside. He's actually better castling kingside. That was a terrible mistake. You could have done the same thing by castling kingside. So, and then g3. I don't have anything better than g3. If I play queen takes e7, I evaluated this was equal. Rook on h to e8, and I looked at bishop f4 here. And I'm right about that. Okay, so a lot of mistakes in the opening there. This strange position. Constant change, we're playing 8-3, and I think I've played everything but c4 today. Did I play e4? I just played e4. Let's try c4. First, it's an unrated game. Second, other members are waiting to play. Third, you can't beat me on time with a 3-second increment. I agree. Knight f6, knight f3. Last time constant change. So he's playing this old Indian type of thing. We had this last time. Last time it was a bad game, I think. He got in trouble on the king side quite quickly. Black could play either the King's Indian or the Old Indian here. Music Dan, thank you for the host. It's very honorable of Octopus Rampage to apologize. I don't think he meant to be rude, but his point was a valid one, you know, that it's not really good if like one player is sort of hogging the chat, and if nobody else was chatting, you know, it would be okay, but castles, we have to be polite about it. So I decided to play something different. I don't remember what I did last time. Queen c2. I like this kind of fluid plan. Stopping e4. But I appreciate Plucro's input. Because he really does contribute some thoughtful variations, and most of you guys are kind of quiet, so I do appreciate those of you who contribute really thoughtful analysis to the chat. Perhaps not in so much volume. My problem is that I'm analyzing too many lines, getting myself in time pressure. I should just play and shut up a little bit more, so as not to get into time pressure every single game. Zenchess said, sorry about the game yesterday. I won't try to blitz today. No, Zenchess, I was just angry with myself. Do what you want to do. I played badly and I was kind of bummed about it. I don't mind losing when I get outplayed, but I don't like losing when I did it to myself in kind of stupid way. I was totally winning that game. All right, so a6, but you have no reason to apologize. I was kind of grumpy when I lost, so I apologize for being grumpy. A6 is kind of risky looking. I mean, is he going to play b5 on a long diagonal here with the long diagonal open? That looks dangerous for black. Maybe he's just stopping my knight from going to b5. If it was closed with e4, I think a6 would be a standard plan. But being that this long diagonal is not closed, sometimes I play the black side of the King's Indian with like c6 against the fianchetto. And I guess there are some lines where you occasionally might try to pull that off. Looks like sort of standard old Indian fare. Maybe b4 is even possible. b4 kind of risky though. You see, he clearly wants to try to play b5. Now my queen is on c2. And he wants to try to play b5 because if I take and whatnot, I guess I can play a4 here. Not so bad. Normally I don't do this. Normally I don't do this in these kind of King's Indian structures. Playing a4 when black play a5. But I decided to do it here because he doesn't have this typical like knight a6, knight to b4 type of idea. So I'm just exploiting some space advantage, and I think that white is a little better. Played c5. I would prefer a5 for black in this position. But c5... He had a similar game last week or something where he tried to do this on the queen side, close up the queen side, and now maybe we can exploit the center. I mean, d5 is definitely a principled move. But I'm thinking about taking on e5 or taking on c5. Really difficult to choose. White should have a slight advantage in any case. Maybe some kind of ultra simple knight d5. Knight takes d5, pawn takes d5 with a very strong passed pawn is as good as anything here. Unfortunately, that knight on e5 is really quite strong. Another possibility is bishop g5. Though let's take a second here to think this through. I don't have to play knight. Knight d5 looks good, but I don't have to play it right away. Maybe bishop g5 first. Although I like knight d5. Looks quite good. Wonder if it gives him some counterplay. Opposite color bishop. Magnus Carlsen would love this, right? Like bishop g5, bishop e6, bishop takes f6, bishop takes f6. I don't know if you guys saw his game with Wojtaszek from Weekends AA. He just tortured Wojtaszek in a opposite color bishop endgame, like something similar. It was actually a Sicilian, but that's like Carlsen's. He lives for situations like where he can just torture the other guy in an 80 move ending with this like nasty like slight advantage. Here white is better, a lot better. a5 is good too. We can kind of wait a move. Just exploit our space advantage. We can play knight d5 whenever. We got more squares for the rook. Constant Change says the f5 idea works only in closed center. Well, to be honest, constant change, I was actually hesitating with knight d5 because I thought knight d5, knight takes d5, pawn takes d5, f5 might give you a little bit of counterplay here. But in general, yeah, I mean, pawn breaks against the center, that's something that you're mostly doing in closed positions. I mean, the f5 idea, closed position sort of break. Now knight d5. It's still not absolutely necessary, but I like it. I think I would have preferred to have played this a move before, though. Maybe a5 kind of is a little bit of a liability. Although I can protect it with bishop d2, bishop c3. It does fix his pawn on b7. Difficult to say. Here I could take with the bishop. Maybe that's better. Ironic, though. Bishop takes. Well, I mean, everything's better for white, and I don't think I want to simplify here. This is a good bad bishop, an active bad bishop with a lot of space behind it. You could redeploy back to f1. When you have enough space, even your bad bishops become pretty powerful, and I think that's the case here with the bishop on g2. But I wouldn't say like bishop takes d5 is a mistake. White could play rook takes d5 and have pretty damn good compensation for the exchange in this position with a monster bishop on d5. So now comes the strategy part. I was talking about this earlier. Exploitation of space advantage. We can use this extra space to generate various possibilities. Attacking on the king's side. I think that white needs to play this position so that I'm generating chances for myself. Absolutely on two fronts. Botvinnik and Alekhine were two like world champions who I think very, very often use this advantage of like principle of two weaknesses. Black has weaknesses on the queen side. You could call this a weakness for black. The fact that white has this powerful advantage with the protected passed pawn on d5. That's like one advantage, and then my other advantage is this attacking potential on the king's side. So this could be a situation where you could actually classify it in that way as principle of two weaknesses. But g6 though, okay, it's not going to be easy for me to just blow him away. He has another issue in that well, we could try to checkmate him directly. But first of all, I have a weakness on b2. And I can play bishop c3. It's just really good. Protecting my pawn on b2. Kind of fixing his pawn on a6. And putting it on the long diagonal could be. Now that he's played g6, black's king side is a lot less healthy in terms of dark squares. Triumphant asked about this being a dark. This is a bad bishop. I mean, these pawns are mobile; they can go anywhere. The important thing is your central pawns. This is my center is the d5 pawn, so that's why it's a bad bishop. If I played another pawn to the center, it would probably be to e4, also on a white square. This bishop is blocked on a very vital diagonal. These pawns aren't really significant what color they're on in terms of whether I have a good bishop or a bad bishop. So now, play bishop c3. We have a lot of flexibility, but this pawn looks like it's going to go. I mean, I'm going to triple my pieces on the A file, and in a lot of lines. Rook back, rook a1, queen d3. I mean, I can triple attack ace along the A file. That's another problem for black. Knight to d7. Let's clear the rook. I was thinking bishop h3, but I'm running out of time. It's kind of complicated. Maybe better to play rook a1 first. Yeah, probably it doesn't matter. He doesn't have c4. He has problems with the a pawn. His structure in general is isolated pawns. His strategy to trade bishop takes d5 was probably the best chance, by the way. Maybe I could have played queen d2 and tried to threaten some mates, but it looked kind of artificial. He could play bishop f8. And I think, you know, it's tempting to play f5, but the more pawn moves he makes, he'll be like vulnerable to me opening the center myself with like e4 and bishop h3. We could also play h4, h5. I missed that move, but it doesn't save him. If f5, I was going to sacrifice on f5, and I'm sure black's getting mated. So, it's lost. I forgot I had a rook on a4. That's good. That's good too. Now, this is too many weaknesses for black. The knight is stuck. Kind of Botvinnik type of game. If I may be so bold as to dare to compare myself to the great man, but this was the kind of game that you could learn to play if you studied a lot of Botvinnik games. The other day I was talking to one of my students, and he said he had a book on Botvinnik Tal match, but I think if you get any Botvinnik book, you should get his 100 selected games. It's very, very instructive, especially the way Botvinnik played with white. Milan Krai, or Kirai, seems like I'm getting white every game. Guys, if you can, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. We've got to create a new video this week of some sort. I haven't made up my mind. I'm going to go to work with it today after the stream. And today, maybe tomorrow, I'm going to put up a new video on the YouTube channel. Last week I did a simul review, but I don't want to do the same thing every week, so maybe I'll come up with some game analysis of something different to this week's video. Appreciate if you guys wouldn't argue in the stream. Ghost Mine and Zen Chess, whoever else started that argument, it's really petty and stupid. So if you guys don't stop, I'm going to time you out. C5, and it's a semi-Tarash. C takes D5. Black can play either recapture on D5, E takes D5 goes into the Tarash. Technically, Black's supposed to play Knight C6 instead of Knight F6, normally going to the Tarash, but I'm not all that convinced by these lines where like White goes Bishop G5. I think I just prefer to just transpose to the normal Tarash, which most people do. I just don't want it to escalate into an argument about nothing. So just letting you know. Bishop E6, Bishop G2, Goat Alu. I've never seen you on the stream before. Thanks for taking part. Bishop G2. Who else is here? Yeah, Pukro's comment is right. I mean, it is common courtesy resigning when you're down several pieces, but it's not a requirement. And I don't think it's necessary to like criticize anyone for when they resign, you know. So let's just like drop it. Bishop E7, because you're distracting me from playing, and it's kind of starting to piss me off now. Bishop E7. Here we gain a tempo on Black having to waste time to recapture the pawn on C5. Probably still book. There are two ways for White to play here. Bishop G5 and B3 and Bishop B2. So both are good, I guess. But Bishop G5 threatens to win a pawn. Not really. Alright. You could also even play A3 with White. Kind of weakening though. But quick development. Bishop G5, H6. I feel like we had a game like this on the stream recently. Take, Knight takes D5, Bishop takes D5, Queen takes. It does win a pawn, actually. It does win a pawn if he plays H6 right away. What is the best opening for Black against flank openings? Well, this is difficult to say. I mean, you when you say flank openings, you mean the English opening and knight f3. I don't think there is a clear best, and they're different. Knight f3 and c4 are very different moves, so I can't really recommend like one clear best, because they're quite different. I mean, against c4 you can't play d5. Against knight f3 you can play d5. So difficult to recommend like a clear best there, because those openings kind of get lumped in together as quote-unquote flank openings. But there are many good systems. I mean, against the English and knight f3, you could play c5 against both. That's what I do. But then you have to be able to play c5 against the Sicilian. So you have to kind of treat knight f3 and c4 like they're slightly different, which they are. Do you have any tournaments scheduled anytime soon? I'm playing some Hungarian team and Budapest team championship games, but tournaments, I was invited by a friend to go to the Czech Republic in February, at the end of February, but I don't think I'm going to go there because I've been traveling a lot. So in April or May, I'm probably going to play a GM tournament here at the first Saturday in Budapest. I would prefer to play an open, but I should have a free entry to one of the Grandmaster tournaments here, round robin Grandmaster tournament. So I think April or May I'm going to try to play in a round robin GM tournament here in Budapest, and then probably in June I'm going to play in Zalakáros, which is a really good open in southern Hungary. I highly recommend it. Very, very, very well organized and strong event where I played last year. Now, I guess knight d4 like transposes some kind of main line, where black played like bishop e6. I haven't had a really great score in this position. Nonstop X, I am versus 1.5k, lol. I didn't understand what that comment meant. What did you mean by 1.5k? The best to counter a flank attack is a counter attack in the center. So I'm in Budapest right now. I do live in Budapest. So I mean, if I get a chance to play in a GM tournament here for free, because the entries are a little bit big, a few like 300 or 400 euros to play, it's too much to just throw around. But because I lose time working as well. But I will get, like, my team will pay for me to enter one of those. So I would prefer to play in an open tournament if I had the option. As I said, I have some friends going to the Czech Republic. I forget where it was, but I'm not going to go to that. So April at the earliest, I think. Focusing on working on the stream here, and I think I've transposed back into a line I usually play quite a bit. I could play knight takes e6 here, though. Knight takes e6, pawn takes e6. If I could play e4 somehow. This is a transposition to something. Well, black isn't castled yet. Usually they're castled first. Knight takes e6 is always an option. If I can play e4 in particular to break the center. So that's my tournament schedule. Probably April or May closed tournament, and then an open in June. Sometimes in the summer I go back to the US. I'd really like to play a World Open in Philadelphia. Let's try this. But what's up with this position? Actually, I had a very similar game against Yuri Burishek one of those Slovenian GMs who streams here on YouTube years ago. D4, E5, D takes C. This is probably book. My game with Borishek was like D4, E5, D takes C, E takes F6. It's a known ending, but we reached this position by a very, very strange order of moves. A very, very strange order of moves. But that's a known line where white has a kind of microscopic advantage. I managed to beat one candidate master in this position in an older game prior to the game with Borishek, but I think this is theory. D4, E5, D takes C. This is not as good. E5 is a mistake, I believe, because of D takes C. And I'm left with this rampaging white-squared bishop. Winning a pawn. Looks quite good for white. So, if I'm not mistaken, that's a direct transposition. Yeah. E4, D4, E5. Take the knight, bishop takes F6. Bishop B takes C. And I have one win and one draw in that position. If you don't mind me asking, do you make enough money from the prizes you win in tournaments? Triumphant, if I did, I would definitely be a grandmaster by now. There would be no question. If tournament prizes were worthwhile, for my level player, I would definitely be a grandmaster. No, not at all. I mean, it's very rare that I've won like significant prizes. And I think it might be a little better if I lived in the United States, but then the expenses are even higher. So Queen B3 check. I got distracted. Probably this is a bad move, just wasting time. Wasting time. Driving his king to a safer square. That's usually not a good idea. So this was a really bad move, Queen B3 check. I should just play bishop takes c6. Maybe in my mind, I don't know what I was thinking. No, I'm not going to try to rationalize it now. It was a really bad mistake. Maybe enough that I gave away like my entire advantage with the move Queen B3 check. Tournament prizes are insignificant to me. Even for top, well, not for top grandmasters, but even for average GMs, I don't think you can expect to live from tournament play. Most of the American grandmasters I knew who quote unquote like live from the tournament scene had wives who had really good salaries or something like that. Seriously. Just not enough money in chess tournaments, unless you're like Wesley So or another top 50 player at least. I don't think it's really significant. Yeah, this is the problem. But Milan Kraj. The whole point is that c6 and b2 are forked, and I realized that. I wasted that key tempo with queen b3 check. Just absolutely horrible move. Maybe there's something I can do here still, but c6 is hanging with check. So this was a really accurate, a super accurate move by him. Maybe some kind of monstrously good technique here. Bishop versus knight ending. Maybe Ricky Rapport could take this down. What a well-played game by Milan Kraj. He doesn't seem to play any rated games. We can gain some tempi here. I don't know what I was thinking though. It's just not enough to win for white. It's pretty good for 1700, I would say. Rook b1. I really need to take this guy. Now he's threatening rook here. Maybe some kind of technical ending for white. I don't know if I share your optimism. What's that? I can definitely see chess rising in popularity alongside what? Esports? Well, he exchanged rooks. Rook a5 was one defensive try for black there. I think he might have just made a fairly significant inaccuracy. I may draw your attention to the game I referenced earlier, Aronian versus Rapport versus Aronian. Actually, it was like a mirror image of this. It was practically the same position. This is a Bundesliga game from last year. Rapport won practically this exact position. Maybe I should play Rook a8 now. Well, I thought there maybe g4 right away, before I had time to play a6 and bishop b7. Because if I have to play bishop c6, doesn't quite look as good. So perhaps he could have defended. Now the position looks quite difficult. He just resigned here. But I'm not sure, man. I mean, if you play g4 in this position, looks like g4 is holding. And even king f5. But h5 is very problematic. Though the computer still found defense with knight g4. This is very technical. I think you're probably on the verge of losing here, but g4 I think is not a loss. This is probably still not easy. Rapport would still torture you for 20 moves, but I think that you have good chances to hang on in this position. Back to basics. Challenging 7-3. we are going to get started, guys. Sorry for the delay. I have time for this last game. This will be the last one for today, unless it's really short. And in that case, we will play one more. If the game's short for any reason, hopefully not for Black's sake, but good luck. Back to basics. I played everything today. I seem to be getting white every game, though. Something strange. But I want to say to my last opponent that barring like that one slip in the opening with e5 and the one slip in the ending, you played a very, very solid game. So he's close to playing quite high level chess. All right, g6 is a kind of problem for me. I don't really know what I like better, whether to transpose to d4 or go into a kind of English. I'll probably end up playing d4 because actually I had a game with the old grandmaster Cham Istvan a few years ago where I played c4 and he played d4, and it's sort of Benoni. Black hasn't played c5, so I like to do like reverse Benkos and stuff like that, but I'm not that fond of the position after d4, c4, d4, and playing like a reverse Benoni. I have nothing better than to transpose to King's Indian and or Grunfeld, according to my normal repertoire. But here we get to try something maybe interesting. What am I thinking now? I'm thinking of a different position. Never mind. Yeah, I mean, b3 is not really good, I guess, because of c5. So white doesn't have much alternative here. You get a lot of people who play like c3. That's just entirely lame. White doesn't have any alternative. No good alternative to playing c4 here. I should say, though, maybe there's some weird Romanician type of thing. Romanician plays a4 against d6, but d5 is another matter. Okay, so this line, yeah. This is like a main line of the Fianchetto Grunfeld. And I never really liked these positions too much for white, to be perfectly honest. I lost to a German. I am. The last time I played this position, back in 2003 or something like that, was the last time I played it. I lost that game and I was like, I'm not going to play this line anymore. Nothing wrong with it, but it just doesn't really suit my style very well. I lost to Volkmar Dinstuhl, I think. Bishop e6. After knight a3, the main line is c3. Although black can also play knight c6 and even c5 in this position. c3 is really definitely black's best. But here, I'm a little bit perplexed. I don't recall bishop e6 being a line, but it may well be. Knight g5, bishop d5, e4, h6, e takes d, h takes g, knight takes c4. Looks kind of dynamic for white. I would assume I have to play knight g5 here. There really isn't anything else. I'm not aware of this theory. I'm not aware of the theory, you know, in this position. Perhaps black has other tries as well. Looks kind of dubious. I don't know. Knight c6, knight takes e6, f takes e6. That looks kind of dubious for black, structurally. I'm threatening bishop takes b7, obviously. So, but bishop e6 is a rare move. Black's score with the c3 is... I find it a very difficult structure for white to play. This position after c3. Maybe if I studied it extremely deeply, I could adapt, but I just always felt uncomfortable. And I did lose that game I mentioned back in 2003, at the height of my powers. I don't remember what happened, but I was playing pretty recklessly at the time. Can you view that game still? What? Okay, I'm not gonna try to figure out the end of the conversation here. I don't really find Penguin's stream entertaining. He's a great player though. I haven't seen him, and I don't know him because he's a player who really didn't exist before I moved to. He didn't effectively exist before I moved to Budapest in 2004. So I don't know him. John Bartholomew is kind of on the cutoff there. I did see Bartholomew some tournaments in the U.S. But anyone younger than him, and I'm kind of like, don't know them. Bishop to c6. Looks like black is in trouble. I guess I don't really like playing d5 in a sense that it kind of overextends my position. d5. Yeah, maybe we just go crazy. d5, e5. I think we should try something really all in here. Wow, bishop there. So he's concerned about having retreat square for his knight, maybe? e5. This looks bad for black. e5 and e6. Opening disaster. Black need look no further than the move bishop e6, though I'm not that sure how bad it is after bishop d5, e4, h6, which is a common theme. E takes d, h takes g might be defensible for black. Although still this might not be that bad. I don't see anything obvious. Want to play d6, obviously. I'm having some hallucinations, I guess. All right, let's try to keep it under control, I guess. Problem is b2. His bishop on g7 is quite strong. I need to round up. Maybe round up the pawn on c4. But I can't afford to give up the d5 pawn here. So how to solve all these problems at the same time is my dilemma. I think d6 is nothing. I mean, he can play knight c6, or maybe this is just okay for black. I've fouled it up. All this fancy stuff for nothing. I'm actually down a pawn. Need to get my pawn back, but I don't see how to do it really comfortably. In the meanwhile, his pieces are going to come to life. All right. So, well, I have to sack a pawn. I mean, I don't know if I have enough compensation or not, but one thing, I would like to not allow him to play knight c6 if I can help it. Maybe I can force him to play c6 and, you know, not let his knight get to that good square on c6 here. I think that's about the most I can ask for. Knight takes d5, rook d1, c6, knight takes c4 with compensation for material. I think here maybe he's tricked me, but now I have to think. I don't know, rook d1, keeping the pawn on d5, or just taking on c3. Maybe he just loses. I don't have c4 though. c3 looks like black's asking for too much from this position. I mean, it seems like he's asking for too much here, you know. Knight takes d5, rook d1, c6 wasn't so bad, but he's behind development now. Taking on c3 looks marginally insane. It looks like he's just asking for too much. I mean, now my pieces have a lot of mobility, and I guess it's still playable for black, but he risks letting me have the initiative. You know, I didn't think he had to do that. I thought that black could play this much safer ways. And now it looks like I'm up down a pawn, but I have massive compensation with the pawn on d5 staying on the board. Play along the b file. My knight will join the game. Both my bishops are good, so black was a little overly optimistic about this position. Still, it's a game. Still, it's not over. But I think he was not really greedy in a materialistic sense, but just focus on consolidation. Maybe he didn't want to take on d5. It looks a little scary, but I still think that in that case, he can just take on d5, eliminate an absolutely enormously important pawn, and just play c6, protect his knight there, and black is okay, at least. But now things are quite complicated. My knight needs to get in the game, for starters. I'm not sure, but this looks like a place to start. Odd position. I have to be careful here. Still not so easy. Yes, this move is a really big pain because it stops knight. What does it do again? It threatens this. For one thing, it threatens that awkward move. This is just a theme I borrowed from earlier today. Probably not a great move, though. I'm running out of time, and I wanted to stop knight a4. It has a lot of lateral mobility, but I think I'm getting a little bit afield here. A little bit far afield. This is kind of a subtle threat of knight e6. But anyway, interesting position it was. Guys, last game for today, but very tense game. He can't move his d7 knight because he drops his bishop on e5. That's the one drawback. So things are going to get pretty lively here. We have compensation for the sacrificed pawn. I think that's fair enough to say, but position is quite dangerous for black. He could have sacked his queen, I guess. It's our second rook h4 maneuver. I feel very like a Neanderthal. And still it's not easy to break black down. I mean, I'm sure I can win the exchange. Not so sure anymore. Yes, good move. Running out of time. Oh my goodness. Nothing basic about this position. I just saw queen e2 was a threat, but good game. I don't know. I guess I lost the way here. Nice tactical game from back to basics. Just blundered. Time pressure. Here in this position, I guess my last move was a mistake. Queen h6. But he has a good compensation. Or I mean, I have compensation, but queen e2 or something like that. I don't want to trade queens. Queen b5. It's a very, very big problem. I can't afford to trade queens here. Knight f6. I guess this is where I blundered. I have to play knight g5. I guess knight g5 and try to just win the exchange, but I didn't want to take the material. It looks like it's compensation, I would say. It says I'm winning. Wow. Knight g5. I didn't think I was clearly winning, but according to the engine, it's not that easy though. I mean, for a human being, the computer might say, it might say like easily winning. But that doesn't mean it's so easy. It's pretty complicated actually. The position is very complicated. Rook d1 was still okay, but after queen b5, even queen d2 is okay, but here I blundered. Knight c4, queen h6 I guess is bad. Queen h6 out of play, like it's just out of play. And I don't have, I have problems with knight g4 actually. The position was just too complicated for me to find a move here with 7 seconds. Interesting game, guys. I don't know. I could have still retreated my queen back to d2, but I blundered now with queen e3. Lost on time, but I'm really worse now. I'm really in a lot of trouble. I'm losing the f2 pawn. So, good game, back to basics. Too much time pressure for me to figure out this complicated position, but looks like I played reasonably okay until that final blunder. Here though, queen c2 or queen e2, centralizing the queen. I was concerned about trading queens, you know. So if queen e2, I guess my fear is he'll just like repeat position or offer another trade of queens or something, you know. So I guess my queen should go to c2, eyeing the g6 square. And white is apparently winning, but not easy with no time. So GG, and I'd like to thank everybody for joining me here on the stream today. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. CET, with more classical and blitz chess. Please check out my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. And also, if you're interested in training, you can send me an email, videochesstrainer@gmail.com, or feel free to just message me here under my account, Sparklehorse, on lichess.org. Everybody have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow, 10 a.m. CET. Thanks again. Bye-bye.